Shop Talk at production of Ink Kitchen and Impressions Expo. My name is Pape Ikegami. I am a partner in the Ink Kitchen, and I am very honored today to be moderating this panel about women in the industry, the reality, and how we can do better. So I'm going to quickly run through and introduce everyone. We have a really impressive panel of speakers here, people in every sort of part of the industry, lots of experience. And let me start to my left with Jody Mazade, who is in charge of sales and marketing for Howard Custom Transfers. And then we have Milissa Gibson, who is sales director for Lane 7 Apparel, so kind of in the manufacturing space. LaTonna Roberson has Lady Print Boss. She coaches and trains other women to get into business, as well as running her shop, the Dallas T-shirt shop. She does all kinds of cool stuff, live activations, works with a lot of corporations, very impressive stuff. To my right, we have Megan Griffith, sorry, that's why I wrote it down. She is owner and art director at P&M Apparel, which is a multi-generational, women-owned family business. And then we have Nicole Pape, who is CEO of Embellishr, selling pre-loved equipment. And Nikki Bowen at Cotton Street Apparel in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She's a co-owner as well. So, to start off, I wanted to talk to everybody and ask about how did you get into this industry and why? It's not like an obvious, like, I'm going to grow up and sell screen printing equipment. So how'd you get here? Kind of want to start with Milissa.
I started with Liberty Bags as an oopsie-daisies board and had nothing else to do. You hang around long enough, someone's going to hire you. I think that's how things worked. From there, I went to Next Level Apparel, and that's where I started really on the mill side of things. And then became sales director at US Blanks, and then now I'm sales director at Lane 7 Apparel.
All right. How about from the shop side of things?
Yeah, I did have a choice. I actually didn't want to get into this business at all at first because P&M Apparel stands for, the P&M is my grandparents. And so they started this business when I was about 2 years old. And then my mom took it over, and I wanted to be a bigwig graphic designer, but then started to realize I don't actually like the corporate world that much. And so then started working as a graphic designer for P&M, and then just this year we took it over, my brother and I took it over as owners.
Very cool. Nicole, do you have a really interesting situation? How did you end up being the CEO of a machinery company?
Well, I own it, but basically I started in the industry at Reebok about 18 years ago. I came out of high school in Chula Vista, San Diego area, and I was in their customer service department, and I got blamed for some bad uniforms at some point by someone on the phone, and I think I answered probably inappropriately at the time. And so the owner there was like, hey, you're not like the best at customer service. I am now, but wasn't the best at the time. And, but we really like you. Is there anywhere else you'd like to work? And I was like, I saw these guys pulling like paint or something through something else onto T-shirts. And I was asking about the screen printing department that I'd seen. And long story short, they ended up transferring me over to the screen printing, and I was reclaiming screens 8 hours a day for what seemed like months on end, and started to really actually learn about screen printing and became a manual printer. And from manual printing, I opened my own manual print shop in downtown Los Angeles. I ended up getting pulled into Ryanette as a branch manager of their Los Angeles location. And then after that, I started working at like larger commercial contract printers and became a partner in that. And then kind of morphed into working at Rock US. That was awesome. And from there, I decided that there was a niche in the market for pre-loved equipment and opened my own business. And we're exhibiting here today for the first time, so it's exciting.
That's awesome. Nikki, how about you?
So I came from the retail world. I spent over 10 years in retail, spent most of my time in customer service. I came into our shop in 2014 to run the business side of it and ended up on production. And don't work on production anymore, but now I solely run the business side of it.
All right. And then swinging back over here. LaTonna, how about you?
Okay, so I started out in sales. My degree is actually in apparel design, and before sales, I was thrown in a pattern room, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create shirts. I wanted to create garments, actually sewing and designing and stuff like that, and I didn't like that. And so then I became a salesperson, and I was selling to buyers. I was working in the Dallas Apparel Mart, selling to companies like JCPenney, Sears, stuff like that. Did that for a little while, and then I wanted to open my own boutique. And so I opened up a clothing boutique, and that was going pretty good for a little while, but I was bored. I'm left-handed, so I'm creative, and I wanted to design, and I, just felt like something was missing. Son showed me a magazine, and I saw T-shirts in there, and I thought that's my canvas. I'm going to design on T-shirts, and so I started doing that. And then as time went on, we got into screen printing like really quickly, like probably within a year. I jumped into screen printing and had to pretty much teach myself most things. And then in 2009, I started Lady Print Boss training because I saw so many women that were coming to me that needed help. And I didn't have anybody help me, so here I am today.
Awesome. And Jody, how about you?
So I graduated from college with a degree in studio art, which turns out in the real world is a little bit useless. So when I started looking for my first job, I found myself gravitating toward these screen printing jobs that I found on Craigslist. And I went on my first interview to Howard Custom Transfers, and I don't know what it was. It was like, I worked with paint a bunch in college. These buckets looked like paint. It felt like home. The people were amazing, and I stayed for 16 years.
All right. So everybody up here has been in the industry quite a while. What do you think has changed regarding the status of women in the industry, and what has not changed? Anybody want to?
Well, I think there's been more recognition of women in the industry as of recent, which has been pretty awesome. I think it's hard because when you're trying to level the playing field or close the gap between, maybe gender and differences in pay or representation or, even further than just gender. But I think it's challenging to see it, but there has been a lot of improvements that have been made. There's a lot of allyship, a lot of groups, and I also think it's challenging because you don't want to highlight women too much where it becomes like marginalized in a way because we're already kind of, fighting for the same thing or the same cause. But I think it's been getting better. We're all sitting on a panel right now talking about it, so that's good,
That's true. How about any ways you feel, anybody, that it hasn't changed too much?
I think we're getting there. I am just thrilled to be looking out at all these women right now because I don't know if anyone feels this way as women, and I think I'm going to get a whole lot of head shakes on this. It can feel very isolating to see other women empowered, right, to do this. And I think we still have a really long way to go. I know personally when I'm in my booth or at meetings, people, if there's a guy anywhere near me, will defer immediately to them. And it's like, well, I run this entire sales team. This is all my strategy. I feel like I might know something and can contribute to this. And I think it's also men taking an active role in this industry. If you have a woman in leadership in your company, to elevate her, to push her forward, and to continue to yield that conversation back to her and empower her to make really powerful and big decisions. And when that starts to happen, we all win when that happens.
Absolutely.
So for me, I'm going to talk about it from a shop standpoint and like dealing with male clients. A lot of times, men come in and it's pretty much kind of like what she said. For me, my husband runs the screen printing department and I run the sales. A lot of times when men come in, they don't really want to deal with you. And not all men, but sometimes you get that feeling of, hey, little lady, I want to deal with a man wants to talk to a man. So, I think that people have to be mindful that when they're talking to women that we know what we're doing, because I'm like, hey, I've been doing this longer than him, It's just kind of like changing that mindset. I do see many more women today getting into the print business, especially in screen printing, and that makes me happy. And I think that we still have a lot of challenges to overcome as far as people being helpful. It's kind of like you kind of think about it, and for me, my thing is empowering women in print. So I think that, from a job standpoint, there are certain issues that we have as far as working and things like that we have certain things that, jobs could do a little bit better with addressing. I know that we try to be a little bit lenient on certain things and kind of be more, proactive with women's issues.
I think I've kind of been in a unique position that I've been able to watch what the print industry looked like when my grandmother was running the shop and then what it looked like when my mom was running the shop. And I think with my grandmother, nobody even assumed that she had anything to do with the shop except for administrative work or something like that. When I started working with my mother, I noticed that there were so many men, both in the industry and as clients, that would walk in and assume that a random salesperson was the owner, or literally like any man in the office was the owner and not the person sitting in the glass office that is clearly in a corporate position. And I think in both of those cases, they just kind of, I don't know if it's generational or if it's just how it was. They just accepted that this is how it is. This is how the world is. We just roll with the punches. I think with the women that are coming into this industry now, using myself as an example, like if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it twice as hard. Like I'm going to do it just to prove you wrong. And I think I see that a lot in the women in this industry, where it's like, okay, if you do not invite us to this space that we are already like operating in, then we will go find our own space and we will make our own space. And I would say the place that I want to see it go from there, because I'm so encouraged by all these women that are just like, we'll just depend on each other then. It'll be great, and we'll learn stuff, and it'll be great. What I want to see moving forward, though, is like if men are, looking and being like, well, why isn't there a men in the industry panel? Why isn't there a men in screen printing awards? Why isn't there a print boy mafia or something? It's like, I would challenge you to be like, okay, what about the space that I'm occupying was so uninviting that the women felt that they needed to go and like make a new space for themselves? And what can I do to change the space? What can I do to, uplift women, like Milissa was saying? What can I do to realize that like these women have a lot to say. I mean, I would probably argue that all the women up here, they've got, you know, tons and tons of experience, and I would say one of the least interesting things we could tell you about is what it's like being a woman in the industry. You know, you can learn so much from these women, and so it's like put them in spaces that aren't just like, hey, I'm a woman. Put them in all of the spaces, and like find out how the entire industry can grow from there.
Yeah. All right, I'm actually going to move. So, as you mentioned about allyship and things, so who have been your allies, or how have you created alliances with allies to help other women out when, you know, we've all had these experiences of being excluded from, you know, the status quo situations?
I think that Snuggle Fest. I think Prank Girl Mafia, you know, has made a big impact on the industry. There were other women's groups that were in the industry, but Prank Girl Mafia kind of like naturally evolved and brought everyone together. And I think that's been a big one for allyship, because you've got everybody in that page now, and there's no drama, there's no one coming at each other, there's no vendors advertising, there's genuine help. Nikki is a great example of someone that is in that page as a vendor and does not use it as a platform to advertise, but is always the first to step up and answer a question to help anyone out.
My experience with allyship is a little bit different. Yes, PGM is one of the greatest things that I've seen in this industry since I've been in it. But my story is largely about male allies, and I really believe that that's the path forward. We have to work on your allyship from a male perspective. So I've been really lucky in my career to have some awesome men who pushed me forward, really trusted me to do my job. And so it starts with Kyle over here. He hired me when I was just a punky little kid who liked to do art, and I had no business doing what I was doing, but he trusted me. And then Scott is also my ally in everything I do. He gives me the best advice. He's always concerned with my trajectory and my career. And our owner, Marcus Howard, it takes an effort to create an atmosphere where women feel comfortable, and he's done that. So when we talk about how do we move forward with gender equality, it's largely dependent on the men in this industry to step up and do the same thing, and it takes an effort. It's not going to happen organically. You're not going to create a staff of people who look different, people who act different, people who are different ages, people who are different genders, people who are different races. It kind of takes an effort. You have to try at it. It's not just going to happen. And the more we can concentrate on that, the better we'll get.
So one thing I'm really active in, if you look at my sales team, it's women. I think we're really natural salespeople, but I think the one thing I am constantly telling them, and I want to tell every woman in here, stop apologizing, right? Have some balls, right? We got bigger ones than they do. So it's true. And I think the other thing is one thing that I've had happen in my career. I once had a boss who, my husband's been a huge advocate for me in my career, and I can't thank him enough for that. But we had a boss who told him, I can't handle her, you have to handle her, right? Like, if you meet me, I'm really not that much to handle. But then I was like, screw that, I want to try something out. I would say something, he would dismiss it and say, that's a terrible idea. My husband would say the exact same thing, and then it was brilliant. That's unacceptable, right? Like, to be shut down as a woman. So, like, stop apologizing, tell women to stop apologizing. Like, the I'm sorry email, Who cares? We all forgot. You've all probably emailed me in the last 24 hours, and I still haven't looked at them. So there's my blanket apology, right? So I think it's taking up that space, being confident in it. We're going to screw up, but we're going to screw up less than they do, right? Sorry, now I'm rambling.
Okay, so for me, I started Lady Print Boss Consulting because I saw that there was a need for women to have a safe space to come to when they needed help. And I'm a daddy's girl, right? So I do believe that behind every strong woman, there is a man, right? For me. And I believe that because my father always told me, if they won't let you in, just scream and shout and kick the doors down and make a way. I'm that type of person that you can't tell me no, I'm gonna figure it out, right? And so I didn't have anybody to help me figure it out. So starting Lady Print Boss Consulting, that really helps women to find someone that you can talk to, right? For me, it's not about money, it's not about finances. I talk to people on the daily that just pick up the phone and call me out of the blue, and I'm in the middle of doing something, but I take out of my time to answer their questions and try to help them. It's a lot of competition between women within the space, and I think that as women, we need to make sure that we are empowering other women, that if you are getting into the space and you need some help, that we listen, because a lot of times I find that some of my biggest challenges sometimes are faced with women, especially when you're a strong woman, and you speak strongly like I do. I'm from the country, so, we Texas girls, we a little strong with it. And I find that a lot of times with men, when they see a strong woman, sometimes you guys try to make us bow down, and we're not gonna do that anymore. So, it's kind of like talking to your husbands, talking to your sons, making them understand what you're going through. And if you own a shop, I urge you to promote women who need to be promoted, that are able to do those same jobs, and not just promote us, but give us equal pay.
Absolutely. I, as a female vendor and a new vendor in the industry, it's been really interesting because I've had allies that have popped up out of places I didn't even expect, and it's been awesome. I also have had challenges with other vendors that assume that I'm here to be competition with them, or I'm just doing my thing, to be completely frank with everybody. And I find it really, I find the biggest value in an ally is someone that doesn't assume what you are here for, but someone that actually is interested and asks you questions and is here to understand. I slang, I sell capital equipment, and it's all pre-owned. It's used equipment. A lot of the time I'm running into what I would call, for lack of a better term, the old boys club, that as soon as I get on the phone with them, they'll assume that, well, what do you know? Do you know anything? Can I talk to somebody that knows something? And it's like, well, I know the diameter of that press is 11.8. I know the CFM is 13. I know the electrical is 230 volt with single phase. You need a dedicated drop. I know all of these things, but a lot of the time it's somebody else assuming who you are. And I think that the best way you can be an ally is just to not assume.
That's great. So I have, I guess, a couple examples, but for sure. So my brother owns P&M with me. And so a lot of times how he is an ally is he just steps out of the way a little bit. We've been on this exact floor before where it's we'll have a salesperson, a rep just talking just to him. And he will kind of literally step back and be like, she's the one you need to talk to, not me. She's the one that knows. I've had employees say straight to my face that women should not be in the workplace, that they're better served at home being just stay-at-home moms, which brings me to the next point: hire moms. I don't know if you guys have moms working in your shop, but you should. Like, that's a great way to be an ally. We will hire, especially for like seasonal work, we will hire moms that are like just mom's hours, right? After the kids go to school and before they come home. And those women can get done in that like 4 or 5 hours what other people can get done in like 40 or 50, Moms are power because, think about what a mom is doing at home, right? She's like, I'm putting a dish away, but now I'm also folding this, and now I'm also doing this, and I'm paying attention to what's going on in the living room, and I'm separating kids from fighting. They're the ideal worker, guys. So, that is a really great way to be an ally, too.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Awesome.
Well, I think we're ready to open it up to questions. Questions, comments. Rachel, would you like to be our microphone person? It's my daughter.
Next generation.
Next generation, bringing her in. Questions, comments, either your own experiences, especially how you've been an ally. For men, I think it'd be kind of interesting to see how you learned to act right.
Before we get into questions, I want every woman in here to turn around. This is insane to see. I don't think I have ever seen this.
Excellent.
This is amazing.
So, a shout out to all the dudes here. I actually didn't think that there would be any guys here, and that's allyship. That's all that we're all asking for anyway. So, thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you for, having women in your company. Keep promoting women. Have them in your C-suite. Surround yourself with intelligent people, men and women. But yeah, all.
Yeah. Questions, comments?
Hi, Christine with Number Curls. I'd love 3 tips that you would have for any woman who just started her own business.
3 tips for any woman who's just...
3 tips for any woman that's starting their own business. Figure out who your customer is, who your target market is, and then figure out how you're going to sell to them, and figure out how much time you got to do it. And then number 4, figure out how to price that stuff so that you make profit.
I don't know if I have a straight 3, but for sure, education is a huge thing. I think in this market, there's a lot of oversaturation of people that are like, I could totally print T-shirts. And so I think being ahead of the curve as far as education and really knowing what you're getting into, counting the cost of what you're getting into, because there's a lot of sacrifice and cost that goes into it, would be a big one. And then I would say connecting with people in this platform. This is a great way to connect with people. Connect with your local shops too. Get support from them. We had a shop just last week, another woman-owned screen printing shop. It's the only one in the area that we're buddies with, and because it's so competitive. And we were like, hey, our exposure unit is down. We can't get parts until February. Is there anything you can do? And they were like, yeah, we have this exposure unit just kind of sitting in storage. Do you just want to have it until you're ready to give it back? So making those connections is huge for growing your business. And that's not just for a woman-owned business, it's just all.
Yeah, absolutely.
My number 1 tip, be confident, right? I see way too many women get freaked out because they don't know how to do something, right? And yeah, you're gonna fail a million times in business, right? My own screen printing shop, we've failed a billion times already. And I think a lot of women get freaked out because they're like, I don't know how to control this. You're not gonna learn unless you fail. and fail with the confidence of, I'm sorry to almost all of you here, of a mediocre white man, 100%.
Don't take no for an answer. Be solution oriented. You're always going to run into a problem. You're always going to run into a problem, and something I learned recently is the problem that you have today will be a tiny blip in your radar next week. There'll be something else that takes its place. So try and roll with the punches. The more that you can, the easier that uphill climb gets, and the harder that uphill climb is, the more successful you'll be.
The question I have is, from what we've seen and talked to the different booths of people that make blanks, is why in the world are there not more blanks for plus size women? Because they don't exist. Every booth that we go to, there just isn't. Even though the people that are working at the booths are plus size, and we're saying there's a huge market here, but everywhere we go, it's like, no, we basically have like little girl size. And I don't see why there isn't. There seems like there would be such a market for that.
You might want to check out LAT Apparel.
We were there.
They have that.
No.
Really?
Yeah. Here.
I get this question day in, day out about women's apparel. It is hands down the hardest category in this industry to solve, right? If you ask every woman up here, what's your favorite t-shirt? How does it fit? They're all going to be different. Men have a very kind of standard issue, right? Look and feel that they're wanting. You get into plus sizes, it's the same thing. This is why retail struggles as well, because the fit that women of all different body shapes, we all want a different fit. Really, it comes down to we're finicky, but also it's really expensive, and I'll be super honest, it doesn't sell.
Well, and in March, we went to Bella Canvas, and Bella Canvas is doing a great job of trying to fix that too. And I know there are other groups doing that too. But one of the things they said is like, well, typically the whole market used to be just like, you just scale from like medium or large, right? You scale up or you scale down, and that's how you get a size. But when you're looking at women, I mean, women's bodies, even over the course of their lifetime, are changing drastically more than men's bodies. Men's bodies, you may like not have your six pack by the time you're 30 or something like that, but you're not seeing like huge hormonal changes. Like women can have like their breast sizes are all different, but then their shirt size is the same. Their body changes when they have children. And sometimes that never goes back to normal. So there's like so many other factors to play in. I love that this is becoming a thing that people are aware of, because 20 years ago, like, women still had bodies. But 20 years ago, it's like I'm sitting in my mom's shirt shop and I'm like, I hate every single one of these women cut tees because they're tiny and, like, I'm a high school girl, but like not in the shape of like a ballerina or something, like I needed more shape to it. And so the only other thing I had to go for was like a unisex cut. So I'm really appreciative of where the market is going with that.
So my colleague here wants to know how we can make our job postings more inviting to women in the industry.
Oh, that's a great question. How can they make the job postings more inviting to women in the industry?
Okay, I'll just keep being chatty, sorry. I mean, what is it? Something like 75% of our whole team is women, and we really appreciate that. But we have found where it's like if we are, like a sales position, for instance, I have found that most women will be completely kind of away from the title sales, right? But if we like really explain what the job is, and we use the title account managers, but there are similar titles, because we're not actually going out and being like a car salesman. We're not actually, or, like doing a lot of cold sales. We are managing accounts. We are managing like customer service type stuff. And so I think there have been a lot of good AI resources out there that can, just during this conference, that can tell you like some really good wording that would like lean more towards hiring women. But there are also check with your state, because your state tends to have resources like that. We're part of a group where it's like it will specifically go out and find women-owned businesses to bring you jobs, but then they can also go out and find you women to work in that space. Does that answer your question?
On that, I think that it starts internally with your core values and who you are as a company. I think the more that you look inwards, the more that you're attractive to people on the outside. And it doesn't necessarily need to be geared towards women, but I think that if you can hone in on who you are, what your branding is, what your what's reasonable for you in terms of flexibility, in terms of wellness, in terms of things that a lot of the times we've overlooked as employers for years. I think that brings the right talent to you, and it brings a fresh kind of value to women trying to look for the right places too. So if you have mission statement, if you have core values that you actually abide by within the company, your biggest advocates usually are people that are already working in your company. If you are transparent and you build with that team, and they become somewhat like ownership of the company itself, not necessarily needing shares or anything like that, but when you do that, it kind of produces a really organic atmosphere that women and other people all around want to actually come work at, and I think your job posting will just exude that anyways. So
while you're talking about hiring, we have like women or people of color in charge of every part of my company, but people like think it's an ethical thing. If you don't do it, it's stupid. It's like that is really it. Like if the hiring thing, like 100% of the people, you're not hiring from that, you're ridiculous. Like if you're hiring only men and no people of color, you're hiring like 20% of everybody's pissing and moaning about not hiring anybody. You're just a dumbass if you don't hire from the entire population.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know, Rick, that might have wrapped it all up there. All right. Well, I want to thank you. First, thank everybody on this panel for being up here. I think this has been like super fantastic for all of us. Also, I would like to thank our sponsors who make this free education possible on the show floor. Again, we are Ink Kitchen. This and all the other shop talks will be up on our YouTube channel. We have all of our talks from all of the shows free, as well as a website with tons of free information. We'll all hang out a little bit in case you have questions or just want to talk and connect. And thank you all for being here today.